Ladies, gentlemen, and haradrim of all ages, Diablo 4 is in a bit of a broken state right now, to be honest. We talked about this relatively recently with all the different bugs going on and potential hotfixes that are in the works, but since then, one of those hotfixes has actually come out, and a really sizable exploit also was found since then and has been abused by a bunch of players to such a ridiculous degree that the trade system has been currently disabled as of the making of this video. So let's talk about the hotfix and what it did repair, the new issues causing the system to be shut down, and then just a bit of a discussion about the larger or more known bugs or hotfixes that are coming and theoretically being looked into, as we are already being told that there are in theory multiple hotfixes planned to release this week. First things first then, Hotfix 3 for the season addressed a number of major bugs going on with the game. Probably the biggest one that affected the most people being that the infernal hordes greater affix chest at the end of this activity was bugged to not include a guaranteed greater affix item after the release of Hotfix 2. This chest was always supposed to always contain a greater affix item and is supposed to have a higher chance than the other chest as well, and this didn't work between Hotfix 2 and Hotfix 3. This also applied to the box at the end of the reputation track, and it significantly lowered the value of both of these things as a result. This hotfix, however, has fixed it, and the chest and box now work as they should, so you can get back to farming your greater affixes if you choose to do so. Past that then, the other probably most notable change in this hotfix is at the bottom of the list, which is a fix to rune shards, which were not dropping in Nightmare dungeons pretty much the entire time since the start of the season. Most people grew pretty indifferent about this, honestly, once they started doing infernal hordes though, and realizing that the hordes activity just gives the same rewards that the pit does, but larger amounts for the time investment required, and it also gave you a bunch of other useful resources on top of that too, which pretty much made the pit a non-factor. That said, this issue is now fixed, and the pit is now once again accessible to players who invest a bit of time in higher tier Nightmare dungeons. On top of that, the hotfix also took care of an issue where tier 4 infernal horde compasses that dropped in the open world rather than within the hordes themselves would have one less wave than they should actually on them. Upgrading these would also make them have less waves than they should, less waves than was expected for the tier of the compass as well, making them generally worse for actual use as a whole. Then the final part of this hotfix was to get rid of a bug with the murmuring obol vendor that has been around since the start of the season as well, which was for most players once above a certain level, any one-handed maces purchased from this obol gambling vendor were guaranteed to be a legendary drop, and there's obviously a lot of ways that you could take advantage of that, and it was pretty good, but it wasn't particularly broken, but it was something that is now fixed. Aside from this, we have hints of future hotfixes coming later this week. The use of the term hotfixes plural in this tweet is quite important to note, as well as this right here, a forum post about how the gauntlet is currently disabled due to having its own issues now, and that it will be reinstated with a hotfix that is happening later this week. The gauntlet is definitely in a bit of a messy state right now. It wasn't even used a whole lot last season, honestly, once the pit was a thing, but it is still an active part of the game, and it wasn't working so great, so the fact that they are fixing this at least is a good thing. It's just a shame that it is taking a few days off from the gauntlet existing for that to happen. All that said, this all sort of pales in comparison to the big problem being abused right now, which is a full-on item duplication glitch, and one that doesn't seem to be limited to item type or to small amounts at a time, being able to duplicate a large amount of items of pretty much any kind you can imagine, all the way up to literally Mythic Uniques. You could just multiply them and then break them down into sparks and craft new ones for chances of greater affixes, stuff like that. The result of this being discovered though is a bunch of players in the East especially abusing the hell out of this glitch, and the second that the developers found out about this, they shut down trading as a system as a whole, so nobody can trade while they investigate these issues and hopefully fix them, and as you may expect, they will probably be applying righteous banhammers on those who abused this exploit the most. To my knowledge, the trading system isn't actually related to what caused this exploit, so shutting it down doesn't really stop people from duplicating in the first place. What it does stop though is the players who are doing it from being able to spread their duplicated items too far, so that the devs can keep track of who has done this and in what ways and in what amounts. That said, I'm not going to go into detail on how to do this by any means, as if there is any sort of exploit that would get you banned from the game, it is absolutely a duplication glitch, and I don't recommend anyone try to recreate this if they value their account in the slightest. That said, the main effect that this is going to have on players is quite clear. Trading being shut down for however long it takes to fix this is an irritation, but it is an understandable irritation to have because if trading were to exist, it would make this much harder to track. However, if trading goes back up and the people who abused this exploit are not all banned before that happens, the entire economy of the season will be in shambles. And it's arguable that the amount of time that this duplication existed with trading being up has already taken an effect on the economy of the season, as the price of items for trading has just been skyrocketing since before the trade shutdown happened. For some players, this is meaningless because they don't engage in trading at all. In fact, I would argue the majority of the people who play the game probably don't, but for anyone who does trade with other players in a more legitimate way than this just sucks. Pretty much every season there comes a new duplication exploit that is being abused by the few to suck the gold from the many, and quite often the people who do this are the ones who fuel the websites that sell gold or items for real life money, which is scummy in itself. Point being, these glitches happen often, and while the developers definitely seem to do their best to react to them, it's still a pretty big problem if you have to be reactive with something like this in the first place. It's often too late, and now the economy of the whole season will be changed as a result, and this happens every season. It feels like at least once per season. Obviously, it wouldn't help much in this specific case, but it does bring up the constant requests from the player base in general for an in-game auction house like Diablo 3, which, while it wouldn't stop duplication exploits from coming up to begin with, it would provide the developers themselves a massive amount of data that they would have on their own end that they could use to detect things like this happening far faster than they currently do just from player reports, and hopefully before they would become a massive enough issue, as this does seem to be every single season. That's all there really is to say about that then, and outside of that, there is just the notion of, again, more hotfixes coming later this week, at least one for the gauntlet itself, probably now another one related to this duplication exploit and reactivating trading, unless those get lumped in. And before we even knew about this exploit, there was also other hotfixes that were going to be planned this week again, so it was plural again, so multiple of these, which is good because there are quite a fair few bugs causing issues across the game at the moment. Every time something seems to get more stable, something else breaks, and it's unfortunate because personally I am really enjoying Season 5 as a whole, but it's just getting harder and harder to give a free pass to the amount of glitches and bugs just because I'm having fun. That just about does it then. I hope you've enjoyed this, and hopefully these problems are ironed out sooner rather than later. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.